Tech's quarterly results outperformed last week. On deck this week, we're going to hear from AMD, Qualcomm, and this one's new because normally they report last week. Apple this time reporting. Joining us with her picks, Danielle Shay, Vice President of Options at Simpler Trading. Given what we saw last week, what is your anticipation for what we will see this week, and what do you like or don't?
What I loved about last week specifically is that the market was setting up to be disappointed as it relates to tech earnings. And so we know that momentum is slowing. We know that EPS estimates might come in a little bit low. But when you look at something like Microsoft and you see the way that it performed post earnings, I think that we're setting up to have reactions that are better than feared. So that means that even if momentum continues to slow, we can still see stocks trade higher.
You like Apple? I mean, if you didn't own any of these stocks that are going to report this week, would you want to own them ahead of it?
Yes, absolutely. Because when you look at Apple specifically and you look at the stats, Apple over the course of the last 12 quarters, we've only seen Apple trade higher post earnings in 4 of those quarters. However, they continue to beat estimates. Last quarter, when they missed estimates, they actually traded lower initially, but in the preceding quarter, they continued to trade higher. So what that tells me is that even when you have an earnings report where the stock will pull back and we don't really have, a strong beat, we can still see that stock continuing to trade higher over the course of the quarter. And if you look at Apple, people are confident about this stock because we have a stock right now that's less than 10% off of all-time highs. So, regardless, even if Apple comes in a little bit soft here, I still think it's a great long-term buy. And I feel the same about AMD and Qualcomm.
Well, what I was going to ask you about AMD and Qualcomm is where do you see them fitting in to this larger AI conversation? Obviously, chips are necessary for all of this, but NVIDIA and a couple of the other firms seem to have gotten even a bigger boost.
Oh, yes, absolutely. When you look at the larger AI conversation and especially technology, AMD, what I also like to look at is the fact that we're going to see continued chip production, and especially within the United States. So when we're looking at the chip bill, and additionally, when we're looking at the computing power that's going to be necessary as it relates to AI, I like AMD and I like Qualcomm as well. When you look at AMD has continued to beat earnings quarter over quarter. The last 2 quarters specifically had nice beats to the upside. Yes, it has been a little bit soft going into the earnings report, which typically I do like to see a strong semiconductor stock like this trading higher going into earnings. But because it's pulled back nicely going into this earnings report, I think that it is setting up for a nice beat, and I'd like to see some more upside here. Qualcomm, yes, it is a little bit on the slow side here. We've been continuing to trade to the downside, and we're closer to the lows. But I think in the long term, Qualcomm has nice leadership within its unique space, and I do continue to buy this stock. I think it's a great bear market buy.